Hey folks, this is JR with DIY Prepper. Welcome to the channel. One of the first things that a lot of new preppers do is put together a bug out bag. And it's kind of funny I haven't done a video over that yet considering how long I've had the channel, but that probably has a lot to do with the fact that bugging out should be considered a last resort with the exception of things like wildfires and hurricanes. Sheltering in place is usually a far better option since it's where all your supplies are, you know the area, and in general it's going to be safer than trying to strike out on your own during a time where things are already falling apart. All that being said though, having a bug out bag is still part of a well-rounded preparedness plan, mainly because it gives you more options. So today we're going to take a look at my bug out bag, see what's inside of it, and also talk about real practical ways that you can integrate a bug out bag into your preparedness strategy, even if the chances of you bugging out are pretty low. Like many of you, I don't really intend to bug out in most cases. The area that I live in is pretty stable politically and culturally, and it's pretty unlikely that we're at the top of anybody's list for some sort of major attack. Most of what we're likely to face is going to be small and localized, and that includes weather events. We don't live near a coast, in a floodplain, or in an area that's been prone to wildfires, so having to bug out because of a natural disaster isn't very likely. Then if things went down the pooper on a societal scale, hopefully that would happen gradually and there would be warning signs ahead of time so that if me and my loved ones are paying attention, we'd be able to get out of here with a lot more than just a bug out bag. The only real reason that I could see my family and I having to bug out and travel all the way to our secondary location on foot would be an EMP. And in that kind of situation, having a bag that you could just throw on your back that has all of your survival essentials would be very important. But even if you are able to bug out with your vehicle, having this ready to go would drastically reduce the amount of time that you have to spend packing up before you can leave. Then another benefit of having a kit like this is that during situations like tornado warnings, which are a big deal where I live, you'll be able to quickly grab your most vital survival gear and have it with you, even if you lose everything else. Because if you have things like food, water, and extra clothes, you'll be in a much better position to take care of yourself and your loved ones before help arrives. Now, getting into the bag itself, it's an old Eagle Creek travel bag that I've had for over 15 years. It's been with me camping in the desert. It was my luggage when I flew to New York to play in a concert when I was in college, and pretty much everywhere in between, and it's held up really well. It has plenty of room for everything I need, so I haven't really felt the need to upgrade. On the outside, I have a few water bottles, and yes, these are heavy and bulky, but you should always have at least some water in your bug out bag ready to go. Then for procuring additional water as we go along, I have a Grail GeoPress. And what I like about these is that they can remove a wide range of biological and chemical contaminants. So I could use this to purify water from a pond in the middle of nowhere, and I could also use it to, say, scoop water out of a puddle in the middle of town and not really have anything to worry about. And I would recommend identifying water sources along your bug out route because having the ability to purify water isn't going to do you any good if there's none there. Our route, it's pretty rural. There's a lot of agriculture in this area, so there's plenty of stock ponds that we could take advantage of. This front pocket is where I keep items that I'm most likely to need and I want to have quick access to. Since it's winter, I have some wool gloves along with a wool balaclava. And of course, wool is nice because it'll continue to keep you warm even if it gets wet. Then inside of this zipper pocket here, I have some basic survival tools. The first one is a Leatherman Wave. I had picked up a Leatherman Wingman for this video, but I received the Wave as a gift before I could film, and I'm glad I did because this is a much better tool for this particular application. You can see it has two blades, one regular, one serrated. Then it also has things like a wood saw, which would be very, very important, along with a file. Then of course just other things like can openers, screwdrivers, and other tools that you may need. Then I have a headlamp that'll complement the flashlight that I carry as part of my EDC. And y'all, when you're designing a kit like this, I think it's important to consider what you're already carrying as part of an EDC or as part of an EDC bag, because if you do that, you can reduce the amount of duplicates that you have, which will cut down on weight. And then also, let's say you're in a situation where you need to take things out of your EDC bag and put into your bug out bag. You can plan for that ahead of time, so you just do it. You don't really have to think about it. After that, I have a Bic lighter inside of a small Ziploc bag, and then a whistle that I could use for signaling or as a distraction if I needed to. And then lastly, I have a bandana. Bandanas have a ton of different uses, ranging from just simple cleaning tasks to bandages. It can also be used as a pre-filter for my grail, so I wanted to have it somewhere where it's easy to access. Then inside the main compartment of my bag, I have my BK7, and this is just a really nice full tang survival knife. I use this a lot when I'm working out in my yard because it'll slice through smaller branches very easily, and it's also large enough and durable enough that it can handle things like batoning or chopping without any problem. When you combine it with the Spyderco that I carry as part of my EDC and the Leatherman that I showed earlier, I have the tools needed to do most of the bushcrafting tasks that I may need to do. Then after that, I have some defensive accessories for my primary carry gun. This is just a pouch that I have that'll hold 4 Freedom Seed dispensers. It'll slip right onto my belt. But y'all, this stuff is very heavy, so that's all I'm going to be keeping in the bug out bag itself, but I'll be keeping my bug out bag right next to where my rifle and my more tactical loadout is, so it's not going to be hard to just grab it all in one fell swoop and head out the door. Then I have some small odds and ends inside of this zipper compartment. First, I got a Ziploc bag that has some different hygiene items inside of it. You got your standard hand sanitizer and then your wet wipes. These will help me clean up after, like say, I have to use the bathroom or before I eat. Then I also have some soap that I could use to clean up a little more thoroughly, like let's say I get a cut. Soap and water is going to do a much better job cleaning that than the others will. Then inside of here, I also have a toothbrush and toothpaste, because the last thing that I want to deal with during the opening stages of a longer term disaster is dental problems. Then one thing that I have in here that a lot of people overlook is bug spray. This, of course, can be used to repel mosquitoes, but it can also work on ticks, which is a very big deal. Ticks can be hard to remove, and they also spread some pretty nasty diseases. The small ones can be attached for days, and you might not even know that they're there, and in all honesty, they're probably my least favorite bug out in the woods, because they always, when they bite me on the butt, which makes them pretty much impossible to remove on my own, so fun times. Then in this next bag, I just have some maintenance and repair items. Here's a small sewing kit that I can use to repair things like my backpack or my sleeping bag, along with a small roll of duct tape for fixing or securing other items. I do need to add some zip ties in there because those are just always good to have around. I forgot to put them in there. Then I have some paracord for making repairs or building emergency shelters. Then, even though this isn't a repair and maintenance item, I do keep a small Mylar blanket in here just to serve as a backup to my sleeping bag. After that, I have a Ziploc bag with a USB charger and some cables. These will help me keep my flashlight and headlamp running for a longer period of time since they're both rechargeable. Of course, if an EMP happens, those won't work, but if I need to use my bug out bag for any other reason, I'd be able to extend the amount of time I could use those, and also my cell phone. And y'all, I did want to include more tech in my bug out bag, but it was just getting way too heavy. I thought about putting this crank charger in here, but I need to spend a lot of time cranking to get any useful amount of power. But what I really wanted to put in here was an EMP-proof miniature solar generator. In here I had just a miniature set of solar panels along with a USB battery bank and then like a ham radio, because those are always useful to have. But even though I'm probably not going to put this in the main bug out bag just to save weight, I am going to keep it very close to it so that I can grab it on the way out if I need to. Next up is clothes, and I have those wrapped up in a garbage bag because if I have to change, because these get wet, I want whatever I'm changing into to be dry. First, I have a wide brim hat and then a fleece mid layer right underneath it. I can just toss this on and use it as a light jacket. Then after that, I have a Polar Tech base layer. I just used these during the cold spell we had recently, and they do help quite a bit. I also have a couple of different kinds of socks. The wool ones work well if it's cold and wet or if I'll just be walking a lot. And then just these regular socks are nice for daily use when I want to be a little more comfortable or keep my feet cooler. And even though it's not inside the bag itself, another thing you should have nearby is a good pair of hiking boots. These are some that I picked up recently and I'm still breaking them in, but the last thing that you want to do is try to cover a long distance in footwear that wasn't designed for that or wasn't designed for the terrain that you're going to be on. So if you haven't picked up a good pair of boots yet, that should be considered a priority. Then I just have a normal pair of pants. I got a t-shirt along with some underwear, and I will not be showing my skivvies on the video. Then I'll also be keeping some leather work gloves in this bottom section to keep them separate from the rest of my gear in case they get wet or dirty. Then if I need to abandon my EDC bag in favor of my bug out bag, I'll be sure to take out my poncho and wool hat. For food, I have several single-serve pouches from Nutrient Survival that include lunch and supper entrees, shakes for breakfast, and then snacks I can eat on the go. I'll be showing off their food in greater detail in an upcoming video, but the main advantage that they have over other freeze-dried foods is that they pack a ton of nutrients rather than just empty calories. Then I've also included some Cliff Bars that we can use as additional on-the-go snacks. In this bag I have enough food to last me 3 days or me, my wife, and my kid for a day, which in all reality should get us where we need to be based on the distance that we need to travel. Then for cooking, I have my Pathfinder bottle cook set, which is a really nice self-contained system for cooking and water purification. The bag that it comes with has plenty of room for the entire cook set and a bunch of extras. In this outside pocket, I have an alcohol fuel bottle for the alcohol stove that I have in the main compartment. While I could use the cook set without it, having a lightweight fuel-based cooking method will allow me to cook faster and produce less of an odor in the process. Then after that, I have a scrubbing pad for cleaning everything up. Inside the main compartment, I have some mini Inferno fire starting discs that came with the bottle cook set and a ferro rod that Nutrient Survival sent me. Next up is the actual cooking kit. It consists of a stainless steel water bottle that I can boil water in directly, and that's useful in case my grill stops working for one reason or another. It's not going to do anything against chemical contaminants, but being able to boil water in here will take care of anything biological. It also comes with this camping cup and the stove, and then just some smaller odds and ends are these fish mouth spreaders that you can use to suspend either the cup or the bottle over a fire, and then also a spork. Then at the bottom, I have my alcohol stove, which is not part of the original kit. It's something that I added, and then a lid for the camping cup. Next up, I have some first aid items, and I've tried to include a good mix of bandages of different sizes. That way we can take care of minor cuts and scrapes, along with larger injuries that we may experience. You can see here that I've got just some regular small band-aids. Then I have gauze pads and rolled gauze of different sizes. I also have some triple antibiotic ointment to apply after I use my bar soap that I showed earlier. Then also have included a little bit of ibuprofen just for pain relief and then also swelling reduction. Then underneath my first aid items, I have another bag with a map and compass in here. And the reason why those are down inside of the bag so far is that I have a pretty good idea of where I'm going between here and my bug out location. Many times we go driving just for fun, and when we do, we like to hit the back roads in that area. But if we had to venture out a little further in an area I'm not familiar with, we could still navigate. Then you can also see that I have a notepad and then a pencil. The pencil's been wrapped in electrical tape just so I can cover up the advertisement for the local business that it's from, but also to give me a little bit of extra tape. It's also a good idea to keep some backup documents in this bag, things like insurance policies and stuff like that. Now, the next part of the video is going to be where some of y'all think that I've gone overboard just because the next couple items are a little larger, but I tried to keep them as lightweight as possible. Right now, we're in the middle of winter, and it's already proven itself to be a cold one. Because of that, I wanted my family to have a fully enclosed shelter that we could take cover in if it took us more than a day to reach our alternate location, or if it starts to rain, because exposure to the elements can be deadly. This is an ultralight tent that should be just big enough for me, my wife, and our 4-year-old son. It will be cramped, but both my wife and son are pretty compact, so we should be able to make it work. Then I also have a 20-degree sleeping bag. It has synthetic down, which can still insulate if it gets wet, although not nearly as well as it would when it's dry. It is fairly lightweight, but it is rather bulky just because it wasn't a super expensive bag, but it still insulates to a pretty low temperature. In all honesty, though, I'd probably only bring these if we had to bug out during cold temperatures. A tarp shelter would work fine during the warmer months, especially if it's not storming. And then, as a substitute for the sleeping bag, I could use something like an emergency bivvy or even a sleeping bag liner. But the thing about a bug out bag or any other kit is that you need to customize it to fit your own unique personal situation. That includes things like your skill level when it comes to different wilderness survival tasks like shelter building, your physical fitness, the physical fitness of your family members, because I will admit there are things in this kit that I probably would not have if I didn't have a 4-year-old with me. Then after you get your kit put together, practice with it. Practice with the stuff inside of it, and then also practice carrying it. And don't forget to think about other things that you may want to take with you if you have to bug out, but you can do so in your vehicle. If you want to see a full list of things that you may want to take with you if you had to bug out, then click here. Or if you want to see how I put together my EDC bag, then click here. Thank y'all for stopping by. Y'all have a good one.